Hello everybody, happy Thursday. We are going live today with Caryn from Peace Mind Therapy, and we're going to ask her some 4 questions to let you get to know a little bit about her from a different angle. So we're just going to wait for somebody to join and for Caryn to join, of course, and we'll get right to it. Thank you for joining, CT. We're just waiting for Caryn. Thank you for joining, Narber, sorry. Just gonna wait for Caryn to show up. Thank you for joining, Haya. Thank you for joining, Mass Parents. Let me see if I can invite her. Maybe she's waiting for me to invite her. Let's try that. Peace. Invite. Maybe that's helpful. Hey, were you waiting for me to invite you? I was like waiting for you to request, and then I'm like, okay,
oh, I'm sorry.
No worries. It can go either way. I'm just like, I didn't realize to do that. My bad. Okay, we're ready to rock. Okay, awesome. So, worst advice that you ever got. Let's hear what that is.
Okay, the first thing that occurred to me when you said that, so I'm doing this that style, like what occurred to me.
Sure. I love that. Like very impromptu.
I remember graduating like grad school, and I graduated in like a long time ago, and we were the second graduating class of mental health counselors in New York. Like they had just created the profession. So 2 things that were just like not helpful was also the recession. So it was really hard to find a job, and someone was like, so just go for special ed. It's like
after you graduated,
like a month where I didn't get a job right away because mental health counselors just weren't known.
Right.
And I was like, and then someone was like, so what was funny, it was like the opposite ends of the spectrum. Someone was like, just start your own practice. And I was like, I graduated yesterday.
Yeah.
So both of those to me just showed like, it was so funny.
That's nice.
Yeah. Like be careful.
Totally.
And what was helpful is like I noticed that my reaction when people had said this was like, and like go with that, like
right.
when that's
if it's bad advice, go with it. I like that. Amazing. What's like the best piece of advice that you got, or advice that you would give to your younger self?
So my supervisor currently gives really good advice and was really helpful in reminding me that like staying true to who you are, not necessarily right. Like in an Instagram world, you can see other professionals who seem to be doing so well, and you get worried at where you're at, what level you're at.
Yeah.
And my supervisor just like reminds me to stay grounded, just keep going on your own path. You're on your own path, study what you want to study, try to get the kind of clientele that you're interested, that you're curious about, and do what you need to get that. So put out that kind of energy, study that. And what I find so helpful is being reminded, like train in the areas that you want information on, train in what you're curious about. And when you're studying,
really follow what interests you, like, because you don't want to like find yourself doing something that's like quote unquote popular, but like you really have zero interest in. Exactly. That's really smart. That's a really good piece of advice. What would be a lesson from your therapist, if you're willing to share, if that's applicable, or from a supervisor or mentor or coach? Just let us know like which one it is, and something that they taught you that you hold on to till today.
Oh, that's a good one. I didn't remember seeing that one. Okay, let me think.
Okay, my bad. I mean, I think it was.
Oh yeah, okay. No, I remember.
But you can share any lesson. I mean, like there are so many lessons that you just shared, honestly, that we can use for that if you want to just piggyback on it. But if there's things fresh.
Yeah, I think that's what I thought of when I first saw it. But but definitely staying true to yourself, your interests, and also, I know what it was. So it was the studying, which is that the more information, the better. Like how you get better is to always remain a student, to always keep studying, to never assume you know it all, to not, especially in a field like psychology, between the fact that like brain study is constantly changing
right.
Science, where we like knew so little and we know so much more, as well as people's evolution. So it's the study of people and it's a science. So between the two, and a science of the brain especially, there's so much that changes, that you have to stay on it and open, that you don't know it all, that your experience matters, but it's also an evolution. So you really need to constantly be learning and be open to learning.
I love that. And what advice would you give to, let's say, a younger therapist? I mean, all this could be used as advice, so we could definitely use that. But like someone that, let's say, looks up to you, they follow you on Instagram, maybe even like a client that like wants to go into the field. and they're just like either not even started school yet or just going at just got their degree, like they're really younger in the field. They can be older than you in years, but younger in the field. What advice would you give them if they look up to you as like, okay, like you made it, you know, like you're exactly where I want to be. How do I get there?
I guess it's all going to sound like more of the same, but really, one thing that really helps me feel better about my work is really noticing, I think, what you're interested in is, there's always a reason for that. Maybe you have some experience, like even if it's not obvious experience, if I went through exactly that, and it ends up being where you're most helpful. Where, you know, a big term in clinical psychology is curiosity of the therapist. The more curious you are, in the space, which, like, we had that other question, the other questionnaire of like, why you went into this. So I can't say that I went into it just because I was like, I want to help everybody. It was, I'm so curious about people. How are we the same? How are we different? How
what makes us tick?
What makes us tick? What makes us do what we do? And that, like, walking into the room, like sitting across from somebody and being like, tell me about it. Like, I'm so curious about you. That is, to me, the thing that you always, and they say that a therapist, like, you know, if you have burnout, if you no longer feel curious, and then there's things we learn to do to deal with that. But you know that you're like present and you're able if you're curious. And I find that, that evolves also. Like, when I first started out, there was kind of cases I was more curious about, and then as I learned it, sometimes I lost some curiosity because I felt like I had seen a lot of that, and sometimes I felt like I could see 1,000 cases of this. Like, personally, one of the areas I love working with is people who are dating, relationships. I'm always curious what brings people together, what makes people go for other people, how people feel during that process, how they feel about themselves, how they work on themselves. And it was an area that kept coming up in different ways with clients of mine. And I was like, I noticed that, like, even since I was a kid, I think I was curious about other people's marriages, other people's dating experiences. So that's something that I really continue to be super interested, want to read about. You know what, also like what you're doing in your free time, what you want to read about, even in silly places, even when you're reading like celebrity gossip, but you notice that you keep coming back to the relationship
to the same part.
Exactly. It's like, I wonder what brought them together.
Exactly. Like, you're not looking at like what they eat in a day or like, you know, whatever.
Exactly.
Like,
and if you are, like, you're probably really interested in that, and you have your own possibly work that comes through that, or your own interests. But again, what am I curious about is like, that's what, if someone was starting out, I would say, sit down, take a moment. What are you curious about?
I love that. And it seems like like someone commented, so interesting to hear that it's also about curiosity and not just helping people. Absolutely. Like, you know, you're helping people, but like you said, it has to be something that you're, oops, what did I just do? Something that you're curious about, so that you have the passions, that you keep learning, so that you keep evolving. And I love that. And I love that, like, you found that. And that makes sense also because like you really focus on like the attachment piece, and that's so that comes up so much in dating and in relationships. And we will do lives on that together because I find that fascinating too. So like, and I totally hear that. Like, for me, like, I'm thinking, well, that you're like, you can spend so much more time in something that you're curious about and passionate about, and like those things go together, versus something that like, you're just like, I really want to know this, even like when it's more of like an intellectual desire versus like like coming from that like burn to like.
Exactly. And I think for students, that's something that's hard to decipher. Like, I remember in the beginning, like, I honestly, I used to open the DSM, which is what we use for diagnosis, and being like, everything interests me, every area. It does to an extent. But then in hearing stories, like, what am I really curious about? What maintains my curiosity? And again, that can come and go, and you can have your own things in your life that can affect it, and that's fine. But it's just sort of noticing, like, you know, when I break it down, and I did like a separate training with the Ackerman Institute on couples and family, because I started to notice that no matter what the case was, that was an area I kept coming back to. So it's also okay to take your time and to work with like a myriad of clients and all sorts of things, because the truth is, like, we're all curious, or hopefully we're all curious about a lot of things.
Yeah, exactly.
But also to just key in when something keeps coming back, because that's probably meaningful.
Love it. Love it. This was amazing, Caryn. Thank you so much for sharing. And we will be doing this again very soon.
Okay, awesome.
Well, thanks for tuning in. Have a great rest of the day. Take care. Bye-bye.